share that up first before I do that, but well, I can edit it. Okay, I'm on load. Nothing without my intro. There we go. Welcome back, everybody, to Maniacal Music Musings, your tumbling dice of the podcast world. I'm Jeremy, your host, as always, and whether you get heads or tail from your musers tonight, you never know, but either way, I'm holding my breath until the pressure subsides. Giggity. I'm going to rip this joint and possibly rip Sweet Virginia at the same time. I can't help. I'm larger than life. My co-host, though, is like the old me when he unleashes his wild side. He'll play his rock and roll woogie blues from the Altamira of his loft at Frankenstein's castle. He'll give you a free ride all down the line like the undercover man he is. And when I say undercover, man, I mean he prefers 900 thread Egyptian sheets. CJ motherfucking playing himself, the music god, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing episode. I know I've finally been releasing them, and we're like 3 months behind in releasing, but it is what it is. But we are joined by another member of the New England Podcasters Group. It's been a few months since you heard that, but we're joined by another member, Mr. Steve Gamlin himself, aka the motivational Firewood guy. He is a motivational speaker, and I had the opportunity to hear him speak at a New England Podcasters Group
We thought
meeting.
on my bed.
And I couldn't. When I saw him on Podmatch, I had to invite him on because I'm like, oh, I want him on my podcast. He is amazing. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Jeremy. Happy to be here. CJ, great to meet you as well. Take care.
Well, folks, when I say we got 3 albums tonight, I mean we got 3 fucking albums tonight. Oh, we are going back again to the 70s here. Yeah, 70s. And
you two are.
Well,
Mine are from the 2000s.
Cause you got to be different, CJ. You got to be different. But we're going back to the 70s mostly for the 3rd week in a row. But next week is a little different, so we get to go out of this decade next week. But another 70s episode, and what can I say? The 70s were a freaking golden era of music. And Steve, why don't you tell me a little bit about you though, what you do and what I don't even know if you have a podcast. I think I've actually kind of glossed over that.
I do actually. It's been sitting in mothballs just because life has been happening behind the scenes for the past 16 months. But it's going to be coming back out this year. It's just basically called the Motivational Firewood Podcast. And it's just me talking about things that life has taught me and just hopefully in a way that it resonates for people. They can take that little bit of motivational firewood, add it to the spark in their heart, and create some new results in their lives.
There you go, folks. I'll tell you this. You follow this man on LinkedIn. He posts some inspirational posts. My sales have never been better since I started looking at his posts. But
thank you.
It's true, man. I mean, there are life coaches, and then there are people that really motivate you. So that's my opinion, at least. But well, Steve, tell us. What is your history of music? Like, what made you agree to be on this podcast?
Oh, me and music go way back. You talked about your musical taste going back to the 70s. I actually, myself, I go back to the late 60s. I was born in 68. So I grew up with just this amazing, eclectic mix of music. I'm into a lot of the 60s and even the 50s, the oldies. My dad and I used to listen to all the time. In the 70s, my parents had a stack of 45 records. So I grew up listening to all that stuff. Got into just a good mix of stuff. Kenny Rogers, my dad was a huge Kenny Rogers fan. Anything Kenny did from the late 60s through the mid to late 70s, kind of a rockin' country, just a good mix of stuff. And then, of course, when I hit 12 and 13, you had, AC/DC, Van Halen, and then the new wave of British heavy metal in 83 and all the hair bands of the 80s. And I got into radio in the 90s, and I had a 10-year radio career doing classic rock and new rock the whole way. So I've had a really good mix of music. And according to my mom, when I was before I could even walk, I was hanging onto the counters and just bouncing up and down to music. So sadly, I'm 58 now, and my dancing skills peaked at that age before I could even walk. But I still love the music, and played drums for a while, just putting on my favorite songs and playing along. And it got me through a lot of really dark times in my life. So music's been great. I got something for every different mood that I could find myself in.
A man after my own heart. And it's funny because on the Asylum, we actually started in 1951 with the Billboard brackets, with Billboard rankings.
Yeah.
The top 30 for the first 4 years, and then in 56 they expanded to top 100. So we've been doing brackets, breaking down the 50s right now. We're up
Nice.
to this Saturday. We're actually doing 1958 Part 1, and
Good stuff.
a lot of my co-hosts are like a lot of the people that like are regulars on the show are like, when the hell we get into the 60s? I'm like, we got 6 more parts. Give it a good 6 months, and we'll get there. But
yep. Well, I used to laugh in my radio days because we played rock and classic rock. So some song, we had Freebird and stuff. And I used to wonder, I go, how the heck did DJs back in the 50s and early 60s even get a chance to go to the bathroom? All the damn songs are 2.5 minutes long.
Exactly. I mean,
you better hope it wasn't upstairs, because if you hear that record fading out and you're still on the can, you are going to fall down the stairs.
I'll tell you, I've learned to like a lot of 50s music over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
But they are like that the playlist of 30 something songs is literally like less than an hour and a half at most.
Yeah.
And it's like Jesus, like when we get to the 60s, 70s, it's going to be like 2.5 hours per playlist.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for the Ramones. They had the spirit of the old rock and roll stuff.
Oh God.
Get in and get out in 2 minutes, 25 seconds or less. And I'm a huge Ramones fan. So
see, and that's a weird thing is, the 50s and the 60s had that 2.5 minute thing, right?
Yep.
And then the 60s, late 60s and 70s come along, the 80s, you had Jim Steinman come along, started writing all of these massive records, and then the 80s and the 90s had all of these epic songs. And now that we're back into the 2020s, it's fashionable again with the pop punk and these new songs back to be 2.5, less than 3 minutes. Like, as a musician, I'm learning that labels and playlist curators, they want you to hit that, less than 3 minute mark. And I'm like, I am a child of Jim Steinman. I like big, bombastic, epic songs.
Yep.
3 minutes is not reasonable for me.
Yeah. And even if you think back in 68, when the Beatles came out with Hey Jude, there actually was a 3-minute edited version. But luckily, FM radio was starting to get its foothold. Like we had WBCN down in Boston, and they would play all the longer stuff. And that's kind of when, AOR, album-oriented rock, really started to come in, and they got away from those little tiny nugget songs and really got to stretch it out.
Yeah. And now with Nightwish, the other punk metal bands, you have 10, 12-minute songs and 20-minute songs, and people love it. So whether they ever get radio play in the United States, I couldn't tell you. I never heard them on radio in the United States. But
Amorphous has built a career out of 20+ minute songs.
I mean,
which is like a whole album by the Ramones. So
exactly.
Amorphous put out Blackwater Park, and it had 6 songs on it that was almost 88 minutes long. And then like the Ramones, they could do like 26 songs in the same amount of time.
Yeah. Exactly. And a buddy of mine I went to college with, he said he went to a Ramones concert, and the only way you could tell that one song ended and the other song began was Dee Dee Ramone, the bass player, went 1, 2, 3, 4, and they just went through, and it just ended. And they knew every time Dee Dee said 1, 2, 3, 4 that it was a new song.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe in Europe the radio play goes longer. I don't know, because that's where all the bands I listen to nowadays are from, is Europe. But at least they have that length of songs. But tell us there, Steve, what album did you want to bring on the show this week, and why this one? I'm truly, truly freaking curious on this.
Yeah, I am a massive Rolling Stones fan. I just think Keith Richards is one of the coolest human beings on the face of the earth. And I think they hit their peak creatively. Well, anywhere between, like, this is my desert island discs. When people say, if you could take something, if you were stuck on an island, I said anything the Stones recorded from 68 to 72, which was Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, and Exile on Main Street. And for me, Exile had the greatest variety of moods and sounds on it. So that's why I chose this one. And it was the last album of the golden run that the Stones had.
All right. I mean, it makes sense. It's fun. It's funny because I'll go first this week, CJ. But
Yeah.
since my album's closer to the same time period.
Yeah, I'd say I need a minute to cut this pizza up anyway, so.
So I actually have an interesting history with the Rolling Stones.
Mhm.
I went to Sullivan County Community College for my first college I went to. Yes, I went to multiple colleges because life is screwy like that, and I still don't have a bachelor's degree in anything. But long story there, but I won't get into that. But basically, hey Dante.
Yeah.
But
Hello.
what's going on, Excursion? But basically, I had the head of the dorms in my college. His name was Charles, and he was a biker, and he was a total.
My pizza's in the refrigerator. I'll cook it when I'm done.
He was a total Stones fan. He basically, he had a computer down in our maintenance area where I worked, and the only thing he had in that computer was a couple Rolling Stones albums. So for a long time, I would go down there and I got familiar with "Sympathy for the Devil," all the popular Rolling Stones songs.
Yeah.
I haven't heard one damn song on this CD you brought. So
nice.
So this when you said when I saw you were bringing Rolling Stones, I'm like, tell me it's something with like "Sympathy for the Devil"
Be right back.
Or like one of the other amazing songs the Stones have done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, he gave me. I realized this morning. I'm like, he gave me a CD with no song I recognize on it. I'm like, holy shit.
Oh wow, nice.
Which I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't hate this because part of me wants to experience like this stuff that I don't know already.
Yeah.
And this is not the Stones I know. This is more of the original bluesy Stones. That this is what they wore before they got immensely popular with their huge hits, and before Mick Jagger performed until he was basically a corpse. So
it's kind of before he turned into, and I heard a comedian say it. I wish I could remember which comedian. A cross between a rooster and a school crossing guard.
Basically,
with all the Mick moves and and the waves and stuff. And
I mean,
yeah, this one had a little more of depth to it. Even had some country-ish things because Keith was hanging out with a dude named Graham Parsons at the time.
I know that name.
Graham actually is, I believe, he is on the list of people being inducted finally into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I believe in like the influencer category or something this year, I believe.
Maybe. I saw today that Iron Maiden's probably getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I was like, about freaking time.
Let's see if they show up, because Bruce Dickinson has been holding up his middle finger all these years.
I can't believe they're putting Sade in there.
I know. I got a big problem with anything that ain't rock and roll. Unless if they would have changed the name, that's fine. But stop it. There's still too many great rock bands that aren't in there.
Dry, God.
Okay, Sade is one thing which I was in one of my group chats today. They're talking about this, and Sade was getting some love for being put in it because like Sade's not.
You're this and this and this and this and this. They're fucking boring. They have one sound. Like if you've ever listened to Sade, it's fucking Ordinary Love. Every song sounds exactly the same. It's like oh my God.
I'm pretty sure they have one song on the Rolling Stone Top 500. They have one song.
Probably Ordinary Love. That's the only. I didn't even know they had a greatest hits. They have a greatest hit, 16 songs.
Yo, I used to have a joke when I did stand-up comedy, and I talking about these obscure bands. I go, "Oh yeah, their greatest hits album. It's a 45."
Yeah,
You
If
gotta
that.
be,
But
age 45 or more to even get the reference anymore. But yeah.
I mean, but I gotta give love to the fact that they don't just give it to rock artists anymore, because the fact that they're putting Wu-Tang Clan in this year. I gotta love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Wu-Tang may not be rock in any sense of the word, but Wu-Tang is legendary. They've been around for 30 plus years. They are legendary, and they deserve any recognition they get. They are for the children, for God's sakes. Wu-Tang's for the children. But so I mean, I love that they're getting in. But back to the album. I mean, this album, I didn't know what to expect going in, because I saw there was no song I recognized on this album, and I was like, oh,
Why
this.
is this computer being a dick?
I'm like, this is gonna be different. This is gonna be different.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect going in. I expected to hear like some typical Stones rock, and I was like, this is not typical Stones rock. I'm like, this is bluesy. I'm like, this is country. I'm not gonna say I love this whole album, because there's a lot of songs on this I can never hear again and be happy with that.
Oh,
But
there's some songs on here that are just pure garbage. It was just them drugged out of their minds in the basement of Keith's villa over in France when they were tax exiles from England, which hence the title.
yeah, which
Yeah,
I mean,
there's some garbage on it, but there's so many, and there's a couple of big radio hits, like "Tumble and Dice" is a huge hit by them.
there is.
And I kind of didn't pick it, but the stuff in between that hits my soul,
Which I mean,
I just love.
I mean, I managed to get a top 4 out of it, and if songs actually stuck with me, and
Yeah.
you named one of them, but I mean, it's overall, I enjoyed the CD to some level. I mean, will I ever go back to most of this stuff again? God, no. I mean, I'm not a huge Stones fan to begin with. I like the songs I like. Sympathy for the Devil, Painted Black, like they're classics, or they're classics. Like they have a lot of good hits. Wild Horses, I mean, they have a lot of good hits. But I mean, you look at any band with a career as long as theirs, and there's going to be a lot of shit to shovel to find the gold.
Oh yeah, and there is, believe me.
I mean,
in their catalog, there's some whole albums that are just dogs.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Insane Clown Posse, but they've been around for 40 years too, and you gotta dig through a lot of shit to find the gold nowadays. So it's the same thing. I mean, it's just a band that's been around for a long time, and I enjoyed it. Overall, I enjoyed the album. I appreciate someone finally bringing the Stones on the show, because no one else has. And I'm like, I know, and much to CJ's liking, no one else has. But I mean, I'm happy someone finally brought the Stones on the show. And I mean, if someone else brings another Stones album on the show, I'm not going to turn them away. I'm still going to listen to it and see where they are at their in their career at that point. But because I don't know any of their albums by name, I know their songs, because I grew up in the '90s and they were classic rock by then. They weren't anything new. So, but this album wasn't bad. I found 4 songs I really loved, and a couple other songs I liked, and I put them on my Spotify like list, and I'll listen to them in the car, and I feel like listening to them. But I mean, definitely not the worst pick ever on the show. For freak's sake, I've had to listen to Nicki Minaj, so not the worst pick ever on the show.
I owned a DJ business for 28 and a half years, and I was part of 1,700 events. 1,200 of those were weddings. And somebody asked me when I quit, they said, what are you happiest about? And I said, I never have to go on iTunes and buy another Nicki Minaj song again. Ever.
Pink Friday 2. Don't recommend for anybody. But CJ, I will now let you shine on what you thought of this Rolling Stones album. As I laugh.
Look, there are bands that I kind of respect, but will never listen to. The Stones are one of those bands. 70 plus years as a band speaks for itself. I mean, they started in the late 50s, so they're pushing 70 years, which is just almost unheard of musically. Unless you're like Walters or Waters or somebody like that. But I respect the Stones for what they've done, who they are, where they're at. But they're one of them bands where I have never once in my life said, you know what? I want to hear a Rolling Stones record.
Yep.
They're just not one of them bands. I have bands that I'd rather run my face across a cheese grater. That would be Sonic Youth.
Yep.
I just detest Sonic Youth with that burning hatred. I don't know what it is about Sonic Youth, but it's the most terrible thing I've ever heard in my life. And then, I have those bands that I love. The Stones are, I have a lot of respect for the Stones. I have a lot of respect from all of the bands from that era because they did something that hadn't been done before and really hasn't been done since, which not just the record sales, but the arena tours that they did were done on a scale that you don't see today. Like there's a couple bands, Metallica, whatnot, but during that period you had the Stones and Boston, David Bowie, Queen. You had so many bands that were doing not just tours, but arena tours that were 50, 80, 100,000 people. And they're kind of, like the running joke with Keith Richards, or kind of the last man standing. You hear all the jokes about, who's going to be the survivor after the nuclear bomb hits. And, Lemmy Kilmister, Ozzy, Keith Richards, Shane McGowan, and the Cockroaches. Yep. Well, Shane's gone, Ozzy's gone, Lemmy's gone. Keith is kind of like the last one standing other than the Cockroaches. So,
yep.
The guys that you thought would just sort of survive everything kind of fell off, and Keith is still just kicking the can along, so.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, they don't tour anymore. I think they just did their final tour like a year ago, but
maybe. But I mean,
they were supposed to tour this year, but Keith's hands are really getting arthritic, and they kind of postponed this year for a bit. And it's funny that you say that because they just released a song over the weekend, limited edition, vinyl only, at a couple little record shops, and they called their band name on it is the Cockroaches. They did a whole little teaser for it on last Friday, and I believe it was released on Saturday. I haven't heard it yet. I heard another new tune that they came out with.
I do like the Mick Jagger stuff that Jagger did with David Bowie during the 80s. Yeah, that was like the Free Jack soundtrack and whatnot.
Yeah,
because I am a big David Bowie fan. So that was pretty cool. But the Stones are one of those bands where they've gone through these phases where 1 minute they're a rock band, 1 minute they're a country band, so they go kind of back and forth between, doing like Honky Tonk and Angela and Simply with the Devil. So, they kind of go through this weird.
And in the late 70s, they did some disco stuff, and I blame that 100% on Mick because he was very into what the club scene was doing. So Emotional Rescue, Miss You, and some of those songs that had the whole disco beat to it, but still had that rock edge. So no matter what they did, some of it was garbage, but some of it was new and it worked for them.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many women I met in my life that are older that said when they were teenagers they had Mick Jagger on their wall because he was a sex icon for many generations.
He still is. I mean, his wife is like 40 years younger than him or something.
Probably.
Okay, if Mick Jagger's having sex, I don't even want to think about that. But
I guarantee you, Jagger's still.
I'm sure he's pumping the Viagra into his freaking blood and just going for it. But I mean,
Jagger's like Ric Flair. He's gonna be pumping until they pump his ass in the ground, So.
Oh, Ric Flair. That's a love of mine. I love Ric Flair. But one of the greatest human beings ever lived on this earth. He's like one of the most entertaining people you ever meet. But what would you say your top 5 songs off this album there, Steve?
Off Exile, it's because it was a double album. Song 1, side 1, Rocks Off, to me, is about the greatest way you could start off a rock album. So Rocks Off, I love. Sweet Virginia was one of those country-ish ones. It's kind of sitting around the campfire, harmonica and acoustic guitars, and I love it. Loving Cup is another one that I really dig, and I think it was about 10 years ago. They were doing some big tour and they had a whole bunch of guest stars coming out. And Jack White from the White Stripes came out and did Loving Cup with them. And it's a really good version. Happy is the first time Keith did a full on, I believe it was, he wrote it, played guitar on it and sang it. Him and a couple of the other guys in the studio basically took care of the whole thing. Mick wasn't even there. And it's one of my favorite songs ever. And Shine a Light is a really good one. It was actually the title of Martin Scorsese's movie about a Stones performance. I want to say around 2010 or 11, I believe. But Leon Russell, who's another huge, I'm a huge fan of his from the late 60s, early 70s. Leon played with everybody in the world. And thank God for Elton John. He finally got Leon Russell inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where he deserved to be. This was actually a song that Leon started writing. And then he and Mick Jagger kicked it around. It was supposed to be on a Leon album, but it didn't come out. And Jagger brought it into the Stones. And it was actually a song that he was writing about Brian Jones, the Stones' original lead guitar player when he was still in the band in 68. They booted him in 69 and he died 6 weeks later, but it was a song about him. So I love the story behind that song, but there's a line in it that always struck me. May the good Lord shine a light on you and make every song you sing your favorite tune, which is something I bring into my speaking, is just find your passion, find your love, find your fire, find your spark, and just put it into every day, no matter what you do, whether it makes you rich or not. Just put your best self out there because you make God happy when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Man, that era had songwriters. And that's the one thing I miss. The Leon Russells, the Jim Steinmans, the guys that could just write songs that just, not just define the generation, but 40 years later, 50 years later, you hear these songs and you instantly you don't even realize like who necessarily wrote the song, but the song instantly. There's so many songs from the 70s that Leon wrote that you don't even realize Leon wrote. And when you hear them on the radio, you instantly sing along with them. But you don't realize that, Dan Fogelberg and Gordon Lightfoot and James Taylor, just wrote so many. I'm a massive Dan Fogelberg fan, and I know that's not somebody that a lot of people talk about, but he's somebody that I just connected to on a different level during that era. So when he died, that was kind of that was a sad day for me. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Dan Fogelberg died," and I'm like, "No, dude, Dan Fogelberg died." Like, you don't realize how great this man's songs were.
You felt the music, the song, especially the singer-songwriters like him. Like, I'm a huge Gordon Lightfoot fan. And I was sharing. I've had so much going on in my life over the past 20 years, and in the past 16 months ago, I lost my wife suddenly and unexpectedly, and some other stuff was going on. And somebody asked, "How you doing?" And I said, "If one more thing goes wrong, Gordon Lightfoot's going to write a freaking song about my life." I said, he wrote the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I said, my boat hadn't sunk yet, but it's taken on water. I said, Gordon Lightfoot might just write a damn song about my life right now. But
that's what I'm saying.
And then he passed away too, which was really sad because he was what a story. Both of them storytellers.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have that anymore. I mean, the last person to really do that for a generation was Prince, but he wrote so many songs in the 90s, 2000s that you never know were his songs. I mean, I didn't know Sinead O'Connor.
There's a few still around that are lesser known. Never remember his name. Steve Earle's still around, and there's a few Chris Knight. Chris Knight is an amazing songwriter that's taken up that sort of mantle, and you have a few others in that sort of southwestern. Joe Ely is still around, I think. That there's still a few, but they're few and far between. Like they're You don't
I mean,
see him nearly like you did then,
no,
on the deal, so.
we wouldn't be getting songs like fucking WAP if there were still good songwriters around. So yeah,
Yep.
but I had, like I said, I had 4 from this album that really blew me away.
Mhm.
My number 4 was All Down the Line. That really blew me away.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
funny
a
because
burner. That's
that's
such a great song.
it is, and that's actually on a bracket I have about songs about trains. But my number 3 was Tumbling Dice because as I said, you mentioned one of them earlier. Tumbling Dice is probably the only song on this album I actually recognized,
Mhm.
and I didn't recognize it by name even. I recognized it once I heard it. I was like, oh, I've heard this song. And Tumbling Dice is a fun song.
Yeah.
Sweet Virginia was my number 2. I love that song. I'm not usually a country person, but that song kind of blew me away with the bluesiness in it.
Yeah.
And my number 1, for my listeners, might be an obvious reasons, but my number 1 is Rip This Joint. Because,
Mm.
I mean, to hear a song back then and I assume it's about marijuana, but to hear a song back then that's about that, like,
Yeah.
kind of blew me away. It
Yeah.
really
They didn't
did.
perform that one live very much because Mick couldn't sing fast enough. That song has no breaks. Mick
No,
was
it
just
doesn't.
on, and he used to hate it when the guys would say, "Let's play Rip This Joint," and he'd be like, "No."
But it's definitely my favorite song off the album.
Nice, good choices.
Yeah, I mean, there probably was a few other songs I could have put on as like, just songs to throw on, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bring the songs I actually felt something to, and the rest of them all were kind of, they sounded a lot of them sounded similar. That's the other reason I couldn't really get into it. But
Yeah.
CJ, do you have any top songs for this album or no?
I got nothing.
Did you even listen to it, CJ?
I've heard the record. I know the Stones music pretty well. I have an uncle who, forced me to listen to things that I didn't like. Some stuff I ended up with an appreciation for. For example, Electric Light Orchestra. I was not a big fan of them, and
how dare you?
My uncle Marty used to force me to try to listen to them, and it was just over my head. And then, as a wrestling fan, Rock and Roll Express came out, and they had their entrance song, and I'm sitting on the floor one day, and their music, da 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 starts, and my Uncle Marty's there having coffee with Grandpa, and he goes, "Thought you didn't like Electric Light Orchestra," and I was like, "I don't." He goes, "That's an ELO song."
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. He's like, "Yes, it is. Rock and Roll is King."
Yep.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
Right.
That's a good song too. That was a good throwback boogie woogie.
Yeah, like I was like, okay,
Yeah.
take me to the store. I gotta have the record because and then listening to that record led me to kind of realize that there was a lot more going on with the music than so some bands took me longer to get, but I heard it. I just there's just certain ones that not a massive fan of the Stones. I'm really not a massive fan of the Beatles. Again, appreciate them. There's certain songs like Hey Jude and whatnot that Obla Da Obla Dee. I love that song. That's such a fun song, but for the most part, I probably could name half a dozen Beatles songs, because I'm just not a band that I listen to. Hendrix is somebody that, again, I have a massive appreciation for who he is, what he did, and the influence he had on my favorite all-time guitar player, which is Gary Moore. But again, I would never intentionally sit down to listen to a Jimi Hendrix record. So
and yet that's what Andy Long brought in the show. But
and it's one of the things. It's not a terrible experience. It's like, look, I've listened to Hendrix a million times because I've listened to Gary perform the Jimi Hendrix songs, but I've never actually listened to the Hendrix. Like if you asked me what songs were on Are You Experienced, I'd be like, I have no idea because I've never listened to it because it's just not my preference.
You should know because that's what Andy brought in the show was that album.
Well,
But
I'm just as an example,
I know. I'm fucking with you.
know.
But all right, I guess it's time to we'll jump into my album next since it's the same year, it's the same era, and I looked at the albums that came out in the same year as Exile on Main Street, and I'm like, all right, I don't know who the fuck to bring. I had a few choices. I don't remember what they were at this point. I had a few choices. I was like, all right, this could be why I bring. But then I saw this album, and I'm like, you know, I know two of the songs of this album, but I never listened to it. I'm like, let's bring on this album. I want to experience this group finally. I want to experience this legend. And I was like, you know what? Let's bring on Edgar Winter's "They Only Come Out at Night" album because it's a classic. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows some of the songs off it. It's a classic. But I'm like, I want to hear the rest of it. And lo and behold, I was surprised by how amazing this whole album was. I love when this happens. I love when I bring on albums I don't know and they blow me away. Versus albums I do know and it's just like, it's okay. After listening to the whole album, it's okay. But this album blew me away. There's only like really one song on it I didn't particularly care for. The rest of them all blew me away. I was like, all right. I'm like, I don't know shit about Edgar Winter, but I mean, I know his name. I know his hits. I'm like, let's bring him on. Why not? Because it's a freaking 70s show, and Edgar Winter was a huge name in the 70s, even into the 80s, I'm pretty sure. But I was like, I got to bring this on. So Edgar Winter's "The Only Come at Night" was my choice for tonight. What do you think of him, Steve?
I dug it. I mean, I was in classic rock radio for 10 years, but I also had never listened to the whole album before. And I sat there and I just went through track. I mean, I knew the two big hits, Free Ride and Frankenstein. And I'm listening to it. And then I remembered, now I don't know if he was on this record or not, but a guy named Ronnie Montrose used to play guitar for Edgar Winter. He left Edgar Winter and he was going to form his own group. And that's when he met Sammy Hagar and they formed Montrose, which is a legendary 1974 debut album. I believe he was playing for Edgar at this time, though.
He was.
Which is why I loved the guitar on this record.
Yep.
Now, Edgar, I believe, played keyboards, but the guitar on this record is just phenomenal. And I'm pretty sure it was Ronnie.
It was.
Yeah.
Because I read the history on Spotify and I freaking was.
Oh, okay, cool.
Listening to it today, and it was Montrose.
Yeah.
But
good.
So Edgar was unique, and he had 4 amazing guitar players throughout his career. The first was Ronnie Montrose. And when Ronnie left, Rick Derringer took over.
That's right.
And then when Derringer left, his brother, Johnny, took over. And then when Johnny, kind of decided he wanted to do a solo thing again, he had Dan Hartman. And most people won't recognize Dan Hartman except for his 80s songs, which will probably end up being in the bracket. He was I can dream about you.
Yeah, yes. Yes. I knew that I knew the name, but thank you. I couldn't place the
but
song. Dan
was actually, he was more of a guitar player than he was a singer, which is why he never went more than 1 or 2 singles. So Edgar had 4 really amazing guitar players throughout his career to kind of support him being this Frankenstein of a keyboard player. So, he had a very good supporting cast as far as, the people he surrounded himself with.
What you think of this album, CJ?
I love this record. Funny story, sort of adjacent to it. Just before he died, about 6 months before he died, Johnny released a record. And while I normally interview for my podcast, low-level, mid-level people, every once in a while you get that opportunity. Do you want to interview this person or this person? And you're like, hell yeah, got an email one day, do you want to interview Steve? My brain is not working.
I don't know what you're thinking about.
The guitar player from Genesis, the original guitar player.
Steve Howe or Steve Hackett, maybe.
Steve Hackett. Got a thing. You'd want to interview Steve Hackett. Absolutely. Favorite guitar player behind Gary Moore. So yes. Get this email. Johnny Winters doing interviews. You want to interview Johnny Winters? Hell yeah, it's Johnny Winters, right? Johnny was not in the mood to do interviews. He was sick. Can you tell me about the record? No. Well, did you enjoy the record? Yes. Everything is yes and no. So it took after about 4 minutes, I was just kind of like, okay, you know what? Obvious Johnny does not want to be here. So I thanked him graciously. Interview never aired because it literally was just a disaster interview. I wasn't mad about it because it's Johnny Winters. At that point, Johnny had earned the right to be as cantankerous as he wanted to be.
Yeah. I mean, Johnny played Woodstock, man. He'd been around. He'd seen a lot.
So I wasn't mad about it because I'm a nobody. Like, look, who am I to Johnny Winters, right? So I wasn't mad about it, but it was one of those interviews that just kind of went completely off the rails. It did not go anywhere like I wanted it to go. But very gracious. He was very gracious at the end, and he apologized and just said, I've had the chemo and I'm not feeling well. And he's like, this damn publicist keeps giving me these interviews, and I told him 2 a week, and he's giving me 20 a week. And I completely understand, sir. It is not really, it is not that big of a thing. Like, I appreciate you even showing up because you're Johnny Winters. You could have just said, screw it, I'm watching TV, So the fact that you even showed up and gave me 10 minutes of your time, I truly appreciate it. And so I didn't get to ask any of the big questions that I had on my card, but sadly he passed away shortly after that. And I'm thankful that I got 10 minutes of his time because amazing guitar player.
Oh, God, he's a legend. But so for this album, I only had 4 songs as well, really. Actually, no, I had 5 for this album. I'm thinking of CJ's album. So I only had 5 for this. I had 5 for this album. Altamira was my number 5. I never heard that song, but it blew me away. And the fact that it just means like higher ground, like it's freaking makes so much more sense as I looked up afterwards. My number 4 was Undercover Man. I never heard that one either, but that song is amazing. That blew me away. It's got a really great guitar on it. And then my number 3, because obviously the top 2 are going to be what they are, but my number 3, I have never heard a more musically better sounding song, and that was Rock and Roll Boogie Woogie Blues. Like that song, like the guitar and drums, it just blew me away. I couldn't get over it. My second song is obviously Frankenstein, because it's Frankenstein. Everybody knows that. Like everybody knows that freaking guitar riff when they hear it. Like it's just, I didn't even know the name of the song off the top of my head, but as soon as I heard the guitar riff, I was like, oh, I know this song. And then one has to be Free Ride. It's been used in so much media over the years. It's such a classic song. It's just an amazing freaking 60s, 70s song, whatever you want to call it. It's just an amazing classic rock track overall. And I mean, the whole album blew me away. I had most of this album except for Autumn. I had every track on this my like list on Spotify to listen to in the future in the car. But Autumn was too slow for me. I couldn't get into it. But I respected the lyrics. I respected what they're trying to do with it. But I couldn't get into it. But what are your top tracks off of Edgar Winter there, Steve?
First one was right up beginning of the record, Hanging Around, because it had, and I'm a huge fan of that early, even before I saw the song Rock and Roll Boogie Woogie Blues, I even wrote in my notes, it's got a great boogie woogie piano and the group harmonies and the singers in the background. It was just such a great track. And it reminded me, as far as that early boogie, and most people would never understand this reference, very early REO Speedwagon from the early 70s, right about the same time. Neil, the keyboard player, did a lot of piano boogie type of piano riffs in the early rockin' stuff. They were like a great bar band. And that song Hanging Around reminded me a lot of that vibe.
It
Uh
it was a good song. I'm not gonna lie. I almost had it
yeah,
on my list. Almost did.
yeah. Free Ride, of course, it's just a masterpiece of that amazing guitar intro, and then the nice high vocals in the choruses were great. I also had Rock and Roll Boogie Woogie Blues because it's a great slow bluesy riff, and I'm a huge fan of that vibe. The live track near the end of the album, we all had a real good time. I really love that because it just sounded like
Eh,
the band and the audience just sounded like they're having a blast just singing
it's
that song.
another song that almost made my list. That song is fucking incredible. It
Yep.
really. I mean I follow Edgar Winter on Spotify now. I gotta go listen to the rest of his stuff because he blew me away with this album, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh shit.
he's in Ringo's band now.
Yeah.
Oh, Ringo's All Star, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And my number 5, I also put in Frankenstein, mostly for the story behind it of how it got its name. It was in so many pieces. And I don't know if it was Edgar or their engineer or producer who just like spliced it all together and just
Yeah.
called it Frankenstein because it was a bunch of pieces.
Yeah.
But there's a lady guitar player down in the Boston area. Her name is Jody Frawley. And Jody is amazing. She went to Berkeley and she's just a phenomenal guitar player. Well, she was in a 3-piece band back in the 90s called Star Faithful. And I got to see them because I was with a rock station up in Laconia, Bike Week, and they played. And just the 3-piece, a guy on bass, a drummer, and they were amazing. And Jody on guitar, and they played Frankenstein. She made that guitar sound like every different keyboard and guitar sound for that whole song. She had all her pedals going, and she recreated that song just as good as the original. And that's why. I mean, I've heard it a billion times, but it made me think of Jody today.
You know, I live near Laconia, and I keep saying, like, if I get a chance, like when my kids are older, I'm so going up there for Bike Week. Like it's just it seems like a once in a lifetime experience. But CJ, what top tracks did you have for Edgar Winter?
Other than Frankenstein and
Free Ride,
which are obvious choices. I really like Altamira. Altamira is written about the Stones. Altamira was written about the stabbing that happened with the Hells Angels when they played the music festival at Altamira. Crowd went crazy, tried to fight the Hells Angels. Hells Angels ended up stabbing like 19 people. So, oddly enough, you would choose a record that actually had a song about the Stones on it.
Not knowingly, but amazingly, yes.
Yeah. With Rock and Roll Boogie Woogie Blues, amazing song. That's a Rick Derringer. Was actually a Rick Derringer song, or I'm sorry, a Ronnie Montrose song. That Ronnie wrote. What was the other one? Free Ride, which that was a Dan Hartman song that Dan Hartman wrote. And then We All Had a Real Good Time is a song that is a cool song. So this whole record is cool. Like there's really no wrong choice on this record. I mean, this is kind of the quintessential 70s type record. It's that big bombastic rock and roll record. And the producer was Bill. I don't know how to say his last name, Smizmic, whatever. He was
Simzik, yeah.
He was the producer for the Eagles, Hotel California. So, a lot of that came over from the Eagles and all of that and the way he produced. So the fact that the story about splicing it together makes total sense because a lot of Eagles songs were spliced together because Don would bring one part, Joe would bring one part, Glenn would bring one part. So, and they were never all friendly. So they didn't record together as a band. They would, come in at different times and record. So it was always a matter of just trying to put everything together, because, those guys were a walking war zone during that period. So, like there's stories out there of the legendary fights that Glenn and Don had and that Joe and Glenn had. And, Joe has always been one of the most endearing people you'll ever meet, but also one of the truly cantankerous people you will meet. Like Joe is Joe. Like, like if Joe feels like being nice, Joe will be nice. And if Joe does not feel like being nice, well, then stand back and get out of his way because, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's an amazing album. I can't get over it. And my only complaint about the album is they should have done a song called "They Only Come Out at Night." It would have been an amazing vampire song. But what can I say? I can't control what bands in the 90s or 70s. But DJ, what album did you want to bring with the lead singer who's got an amazing last name?
So I was looking through, and I was actually listening to these guys at the time, so I just chose the record. They are out of Texas, and I'm going to tie it in to this. The band is called Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. They are sort of a blues rock boogie woogie type band. Tyler basically learned guitar from B.B. King.
Nice.
And his rhythm guitar player is Caleb Whitmore. His dad is Brad Whitmore from Aerosmith. So he has the son of Aerosmith as his second in command, and him and Caleb write all of these songs. And I love Tyler. I love the Shakedown. They are big, bombastic, in your face. One of the best live bands I have ever heard, man. Just, I've seen them multiple times, and in the style of Gary Moore, in the style of Eric Sardinas, they walk out on stage, they hit the pedal, and they're 90 miles an hour from top to bottom, man. Just, punch you in the face with the distortion and all of the great things of that 70s blues era that made people like Rory Gallagher and Gary Moore and Peter Green and all of those people that made them great. Caleb has carried that on. So they have a record, came out in 2020. It's called Pressure. And I will die on the hill that it's probably one of the best records of the past 10 years. I mean, it's just to me, it's a monster sounding record that hits all of the points of what a great rock and roll record is. So, yeah.
Well,
Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown, Pressure. That's my choice this week.
Before I get into what I think of it, what did you think of it, Steve?
I dug it. It's not a band I'd ever heard before, and as soon as I saw the album, well, the cover for it, and it said Pressure and had the needle going into the red, as soon as I hit it and I heard that pushed right to the edge and a little over in the distortion and stuff, I thought I kind of guessed Texas or Southern without even looking it up, because I could just picture this playing on a jukebox somewhere and stuff just flying through the air at a bar. If you played it late at night, there'd be stuff flying through the air. The type of bar that would have chicken wire up to prevent the band from getting concussions.
Yes.
Very much. I dug it. I really did. And there were some really cool influences in moods in there that I heard. Even with just a little riff here or there, I'd go, oh, that sounds like this band, or, oh, I love the vibe of this. And as rocking as it was, a couple of the slower ones, a little swampy even, and even a little blues shuffle on the song Coastin', which I loved. It just reminded me of closing time at a bar.
Yeah.
And in the song Wild Side, there's a lead in, and I didn't know that was Brad Whitford's kid in that band. That's even cooler to know. There was a part in the lead guitar that was very reminiscent of about 1974, 75 Leonard Skinnard. I just heard this thing and I go, that sounds like a little, almost like a little slide Gary Rossington riff in the middle of a couple other guitars. So for me, the songs were Shakedown, Holding My Breath, Wild Side. Misery had a really good dark riff and a dark sound, very melancholy. And it just reminded me of some of the days when I really miss my Tina. That's a song I would play. And then Coastin', like I said, a great blues shuffle.
Nice.
Look at Steve here jumping ahead in the top 5, but I love it. You want to die in this fucking hill? I'm gonna make sure you die in this fucking hill. You want to say it's one of the best albums in the last fucking 10, 20 years? I got probably 40, 50 albums that could fucking compete with that and be better. But I mean, overall, I liked it. Would I say this is a band I want to go follow? No. I liked it overall. The guy has a good last name. Bryant's a great last name to have. Trust me. But
I didn't even think about that when I sent it. I didn't even think about the last name.
We're all Kobe's cousins. Trust me. But it's I liked it. It was too bluesy for me, if anything.
Yeah.
Like that was my main complaint. It was too bluesy.
It's a record you got to be in the kind of frame of mind for. Like you got to,
I mean, drinking some moonshine, driving my truck down the old dirt road, maybe. But I mean, it was too bluesy and too country in parts of me. But I mean, I got 4 I really enjoyed. Could they maybe do better albums? Sure, I guess it's a possibility, and I would have to be introduced to one because I ain't gonna go looking for it. But overall, I enjoyed it to some degree. I'm not gonna say I love this band, but they definitely kept my interest for the whole album. That's for sure. And I could appreciate the guitar and drum work and all that. Like the music's there. It's just a little less harmonic would be great. But what can I say? You know my opinions on country music. I ain't gonna go into it. And it's just it treads a fine line between rock and country. And I don't know. And depending on the song, it depends what side that line's gonna fall on. And yeah, it is what it is. I appreciate them and I like them. But what were your top songs from them, CJ? Before I get to mine.
Pressure right off the top starts off, just kind of letting you know that we're here. It's gonna get loud. I like Holding My Breath. That's actually a Blackberry Smoke song that they recorded. Charlie Starr actually wrote it. And he's the background vocals on that one. And they share a lot of commonality with Blackberry Smoke. So if you like Blackberry Smoke, you kind of, Tyler, he wears his influences on his sleeves. He said in interviews that, anything that you name that you think we sound like, yes, we do. That's, I mean, he's very open about his love for who he loves, and that's the way they record analog in the studio. Everything cranked to 10, just boom. I'm trying to remember all these songs in here. Automatic is a really cool song. Loner is a good song. Coastin' is a good one. I think Like the Old Me is the other one that I like. I'm trying to remember all of these songs. It's been such a long day. I just pretty much just named the whole record because I don't think there's a bad song in this personally. Like this is one of the type of records that I will put on, and when it comes to new bands, they're really one of the few new bands that I think they've been around for a while already. I mean, they're pushing 15 years almost. They've been around as a band, but they're starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger finally. And, rightfully, I think they're getting to that point where they're up there with Blackberry Smoke and the band that, oh my God, I cannot think of anything tonight. Shit, the band that the Headhunter Sons are in.
Emmy, nothing to me.
Yeah.
But
Anyways, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Go ahead to your second. My brain, dude, is just so fried tonight. I can't think of anything, and it's pissing me off. Like
I don't know. I don't even know who the fuck Blackberry Smoke is, but okay.
Oh, they're amazing.
I've never heard of them.
They're good.
I've never heard of them, but
Blackstone Cherry. That's the other band I'm trying to think of.
oh,
God damn it!
I know that name. I never heard of them.
Yeah, that's got the two sons from the Kentucky Headhunters.
That's why I don't know. That's why I don't know them probably. But I had 4 songs of them that really blew me away. The rest of them were all, I could take them or leave them. But Pressure is my number 4. That was a great way to open an album. That was, you knew what they were coming to do at that point, and I appreciate that song. Wild Side was my number 3.
Yeah.
Kind of because it was a Motley Crue song first, and I mean, obviously not a cover, but still, it kind of made me think of the Motley Crue song, and it was a fun song to begin with. 2, and this one's kind of out there compared to the other ones I picked. Like the Old Me, the lyrics in that song really resonated with me. Like the Old Me, that song kind of blew me away. Like the way the lyrics resonated with me. I didn't expect to like it because it was slower, but it kind of blew me away. And Holding My Breath was number 1. That's a freaking amazing song. I mean, this band has talent, and he has a good last name. So I mean, maybe I'll check him out in the future, but I don't know.
If you want to really get the essence of who they are, they released a record I think 2 years ago. It's called Live from '79. It's a live show that they recorded, and it's the essence of who they are, man. Like Tyler walks out there, you hear his boots on the stage, and he's like, "We're Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown." And he hits the guitar and just from like top to bottom, man, they just rock through like 45 minutes of just in your face, and you get the essence of them as a live band of like how very like Jeff Healey, or like you said, the chicken wire and the whatnot, like that Jeff Healey type of sound,
Yep.
Well, because it's you, I will take your word for it and add that album to my list to listen to. but
it's the live version of them. It's no studio tricks. It's just
you know how much I hate fucking live albums too. So that's a whole nother stereotype I have.
I was saying it for Steve more than you, but I'm just saying, like,
I'll see how it is, motherfucker. But
yeah. I know you don't like live albums, so
I fucking hate. Unless it's Powerwolf, I hate live albums. But they're the only ones who can put on, or Powerwolf basically is basically about it.
You said to Bob Seger.
You made me sit through Bob Seger. I just sit through a fucking Kiss live album, which was fucking hell. But,
very little of those Kiss Alive and Alive 2 albums were actually live.
It was alive too.
They doctored the hell out of those records.
Very little of what was recorded as Kiss was ever actually Kiss.
Yeah.
Well, it was alive too, and it was horrible. But and I had to sit through a couple other more live albums I can't remember at this point, but they were freaking horrible. Yeah. But I'm just not. I've never been a fan of live albums until I met Powerwolf, and then there are live albums I could do, but because they sound the same on their live and on their studio. So, but well, folks, we went back in time once again and brought you 3 more albums. Next week we get to move forward into the 80s at least, so yay for that. But because I am running out of albums to bring in the 70s at this point, I brought all the Elton John Styx albums I could bring. But
what? I'm trying to remember.
Good choice.
What I sent you.
But folks, what for next week?
Yeah, it was.
I
know what it was.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm like, I don't remember. I sent to the guest, and that's all I need to do. Blue Murder subtitled album. Yeah. Right. Which, well, we'll get to next week, and the guest wants to bring Guns N' Roses, so I have a whole set of feelings about Guns N' Roses. So that's a whole nother thing. Brett Michaels is a piece of shit, but that's a whole nother thing. we'll get to that next week.
You
But
mean Axl Rose?
yes, I'm confusing Poison.
Poison, bro.
I'm confusing Poison. Because they're so fucking similar. But yes, um, come back next week to hear about that because I'm gonna have a whole shitload to say about Axl Rose. But come back next week for that. We want to thank Steve for coming on because it's been a fun freaking show. And as soon as I met this man, I had to get him on our show eventually. And fate just intervened and gave me a way to get him on the show. I was like, fuck yeah. But Steve, tell them where they can find you if they want to hear all your motivational guru-ness.
My guru. That's the one where you hate Axl Rose. I hate the word guru. So there we go. Basically, I put out my stuff daily on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Just looking up my name, Steve Gamlin, Gamlin, and my brand new website, which we're just putting the final little touches on, is stevegamlinspeaker.com.
Well, there you go. And of course, for all you listeners, those links will be right in the description, of course. And DJ, where can they find you when you're not in the studio these days?
Music God CJ Plain.rocks is the website. You can find me on all streaming services. We have 3 songs out right now. X Marks the Spot, it's an 80s anthem, Gen X anthem. And then I have 2 songs now that are starting to pick up in the Philippines. They are in Tagalog. I wrote 2 reggae songs in Tagalog. And 1 week from today, the countdown, my debut record comes out, Neon Exodus. It is a...
Wouldn't it be a week from yesterday?
Rock, huh?
Wouldn't it be a week from yesterday?
A week from yesterday, sorry. April 20th, 4/20, it comes out. It's an alt rock synthwave space opera concept record. So you finally get to hear this story about Earth burning up and escaping Earth to Alternium, and it's a story of survival and a love story and all of these cool things that harken back to, the storytelling days, yet with that sort of, Cell Dweller, Lord of the Lost, Shinedown type of vibe to it. So,
oh motherfucker, you want to compare yourself to Lord of the Lost?
It's got that kind of.
You just raised the fucking bar.
I'm not saying it's exactly like them, but it's got that bombastic synthy, big bombastic guitars, drums, synths, all that kind of stuff.
I look forward to hearing it. I really do. It's
a record that ELL would have wrote if they were like a modern day synth rock band. And
if it tells an epic story, Jim Steinman would be proud.
I am a child of Steinman to my heart, man. Like, the one thing you can guarantee with me every time, if you take me to a bar and get me drinking, I will get on stage and I will butcher Making Love Out of Nothing at All, because it's just what I do. It's, one of those songs that has lived forever in my heart, man. And
well, you just gave me a goal in life to get that to happen. But
it don't take much.
I want to say Music Got Drunk. Come on now. But folks, you can check out both your musers on Facebook at Squatchy Largefoot and on X and the Gram as that Juggalo Bastard. And of course, YouTube. The best place to find us is YouTube. Everything we've ever done is on YouTube. Maniacal Music Musings. Just look it up. Look at the video feed. Don't look at the podcast feed. As I had to explain to someone on Saturday at the NEPG meeting. But look at the video feed, because you're not going to see the actual videos on the podcast feed. You're just going to hear the audio. But come back next week and hear what we have to say about Guns N' Roses and that band CJ Blue Murder, and I don't even know what the fuck what did I pray? Oh, and folks, we're bringing some sabotage to this fucking bitch, John Olivia.
Yeah, you're a dick for that. I was literally on Spotify and I was like, I'm gonna send Gutter Ballet, and then you was like,
All
All
of
of the
them.
Mountain King, and I was like, "Oh, you dirty bitch! You beat me down."
It's funny because we did that out. We did that year like a couple months ago,
Right.
and I wanted to bring Sabotage then, but I didn't. I brought. I
Such
think
an amazing band.
I brought Will Smith that time, but I'm like you know what? I gotta bring Sabotage. I'm like Hall of the Mountain King is one of my favorite metal songs of all time, and I gotta bring it. But come back next week to hear about that, folks, and we will make sure to go check out Steve's stuff. We'll be back then. Have a good one, everybody, and try to enjoy music today. I can't promise it's good, but try to enjoy it.
Yes.